Grandma is old and incontinent, but she can't bear to throw away the adult diapers my cousin bought for her, so she uses one diaper, washes it, dries it, and uses it again. I was afraid she would get sick, so I secretly threw the diaper she was drying into the river. Grandma made a big fuss and insisted on going to the river to retrieve it. During the argument, I was instead pushed into the river by her and drowned. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the days when my grandmother was drying diapers. This time, I chose to let go of the urge to help and respect others' fate. I found myself back on the day I discovered my grandmother drying diapers. It was the season of warm spring and blooming flowers, and Grandma was washing cloth diapers in a basin at the doorstep. In winter, the water was cold, and my family was poor. Without a water heater, Grandma couldn't bear to use firewood to heat water. So this pile of cloth diapers was the amount she had accumulated throughout the entire winter. I watched as she hung the washed cloth diapers one by one on the railing in front of the door. She muttered while washing, "Such a good thing as disposable diapers. How can you just throw them away after one use? I'll wash them, and they'll be as good as new again, won't they?" I sneered inwardly, thinking, if it's such a good thing, you should use it more. Grandma, busy with her work, saw me and scolded, "You silly girl. What are you standing there for? Come over here and help me hang these up." I dashed away in a flash, saying, "My dad is coming back for lunch. I'm going to cook for him. I don't want to touch her dirty things." In my previous life, I saw her hanging disposable diapers there, and for her health, I hurried to stop her. As a result, she cursed at me. These disposable diapers were bought for her by my cousin. She said I was jealous of my cousin making money, that I couldn't stand to see her doing well. No matter how much I tried to reason with her, she just wouldn't listen and insisted on protecting those diapers. As a result, it delayed making dinner for my dad. When my dad came back, the food wasn't ready yet, so he beat me up. Even so, I still worry about her, afraid she might use those used diapers. So, covering my face, I cautiously said to my dad, "Dad, Grandma's diapers from winter haven't been thrown away yet." My dad was busy eating, not even looking up. "If they haven't been thrown away, then they haven't. I think it's fine to leave them drying there, but used diapers can't be reused. It's harmful to health." My dad finished his last bite of rice, set down his bowl, and snapped, "Nonsense, that diaper's been washed clean. How could it possibly harm anyone's health?" My grandma chimed in from the side, Exactly, Pa, you little brat. How dare you tattle on me? My son and I are on the same page." After saying that, she took the bowl and chopsticks from in front of me, walked to the door, and poured the rice into the dog's bowl. "You wicked thing, might as well give the food to the dog." Faced with their stubbornness, I felt both anxious and helpless. After washing the dishes, while my grandmother wasn't paying attention, I gathered all the diapers drying in front of the door and put them into a basin. My house is right by the river, so I quickly walked to the riverbank and dumped all the diapers into the water. At that moment, my grandmother saw me from inside the house. She shouted anxiously, "You little brat. What are you doing? Oh my goodness, how did our family end up with such a cursed child?" She cursed at me while hobbling over with her wooden cane. She ignored my attempts to stop her and wanted to go downstream to pick up those diapers. I pulled her back and said, "Grandma, those can't be used again once they've been used. I'll buy you new ones." "Pa, you cheap wretch, how could you have money to buy me such nice things?" After saying that, she rolled her eyes and gave me a heavy blow on the back. I fell into the river, and she said with schadenfreude, "Go, get it back for me." "But I can't swim at all." I struggled and shouted for help. "You lazy girl," trying to slack off again, "hurry up and get the diaper." After saying that, she hit me on the head with another stick, and that's how I died in the water. So in this lifetime, if she wants to guard her diapers, then let her guard them. I absolutely won't interfere. At noon today, I cooked the meal on time, and my dad didn't hit me when he came back, but unexpectedly, he actually brought up the diaper issue on his own. "Mom, why did you hang those diapers in front of the door? How unlucky. It's making the neighbors laugh at us." Seeing her son's dissatisfaction, Grandma quickly said, "All right, I'll hang them in the bathroom. Who knows which shameless woman has been gossiping in front of my son." I knew exactly who Grandma was referring to, Aunt Jane from across the river. Aunt Jane has a kind heart. She probably saw Grandma hanging the diapers and kindly mentioned it to my dad, but my grandmother, who can't tell right from wrong, meant that Aunt Zhang's kindness was destined to be wasted. In my previous life, after I drowned, it was Aunt Zhang and her husband who pulled my body out of the water, but my grandmother turned around and accused Aunt Zhang of pushing me into the river. However, the police weren't fools. Aunt Zhang didn't take the blame, but she never dared to have anything to do with my family again. I was hastily buried after my death, and only Aunt Zhang remembered me. Before she moved away, she came to my grave and cried, saying, "My dear, I know you died unjustly, but Auntie couldn't do anything about it. I only hope you'll be reborn into a good family in your next life." Thinking of this, my expression darkened. "In this life, I will never again mistake beasts for family. What are you thinking about, you silly girl?" My dad finished the rice in his bowl and tapped the bowl with his chopsticks, signaling me to refill it for him. "Oh, nothing. I just feel like there are always people in the village who envy Grandma. Those women, when they get old, they definitely won't need diapers." I stood up to refill his rice, mimicking Grandma's tone, and cursed. "Jody is right. They don't have my good fortune, having such a well-behaved grandson." The well-behaved grandson Grandma mentioned naturally refers to my cousin, but she didn't notice the subtle change in my father's expression. "Oh, by the way, second son, your eldest nephew is getting married. Put aside your work and go help out at your brother's place. Brothers should help each other out. When you're old, you'll have to rely on your nephew." My dad just grunted in response and didn't say anything else. He took the bowl of rice I handed him and went back to eating. My dad only has me, a daughter. After my mom gave birth to me, she ran off with another man. Our family was poor, and after my mom left, no woman from the surrounding villages was willing to marry my dad. But my uncle has a son, and my father believes daughters are unreliable, so he often scolds and hits me, yet he dotes on my cousin because he expects him to provide for him in old age. Therefore, my father always acts humble and ingratiating in front of my uncle's family. And now, my uncle has asked my father to take care of my grandmother in her later years, while his family shirks responsibility. And my father has no choice but to agree. Although my grandmother lives with my father, she constantly praises my uncle's family. Distance lends enchantment to the view. If my dad shows even a slight flaw, my grandma immediately spreads the word to everyone. Over time, how could my dad not harbor resentment? When my cousin got married, he planned to host a 3-day banquet in the village. A few days before the wedding, the neighbors all went to help with the preparations, and my dad also got up early that day. I'm feeding the chickens, and he's telling me to hurry my grandma along. "Grandma," Dad says, "it's time to go. What's the rush? Just wait a moment." My grandma's voice came from the dry toilet, sounding a bit uncomfortable. "I think it's because the diaper has been worn for too long, causing skin itching." "Right." My grandma came out of the dry toilet, scratched her butt a couple of times, and seeing me holding the chicken feeding basin, she said, "Go catch a few dozen fat chickens from the coop and take them to your uncle's house later." I listened to her and ran to my dad, telling him about Grandma's plan. For a moment, the veins on my dad's temples bulged, but he quickly calmed down. He waved his hand and said, "Go ahead, go catch them." My grandma was still spitting at me from the side. "You little brat, all you know is to tattle to your dad, second brother. When your nephew gets married, you should give him a few dozen chickens. Don't be stingy. Don't forget, when you get old, you'll have to rely on your nephew." My dad didn't say anything and went with me to catch the chicken. When we arrived at my uncle's house, my dad warmly greeted them and offered cigarettes to my uncle and cousin. The two brothers exchanged pleasantries on the side, while my cousin lit his cigarette and looked at me with an ambiguous expression. "Cousin, you've graduated, right? When your brother gets married, come work at my factory. I'll introduce you." I didn't say anything. Actually, I graduated last summer. Over the years, with the help of national funding and my own time work, I managed to get into university and graduate successfully. I had already found a job through campus recruitment, but my dad called the HR department behind my back and gave them a good scolding. He said they had lured me to a place so far from home with bad intentions. He didn't know that I had deliberately looked for a job so far away, just wanting to get away from this miserable home. But because of his interference, my job opportunity was ruined. Now my ID card is in his possession, so I can't run away even if I want to. Thinking about these things, I let out a long sigh of relief in my heart. I was so close to leaving them behind, but it's okay, starting over. I won't let anyone control me again. I squeezed the slightly outdated smartphone in my bag, my heart firm. I met my sister-in-law, an ordinary-looking, easygoing woman, but she didn't seem happy. Her belly was already quite large. I heard she was 9 months pregnant. The two got married because of the pregnancy. My cousin got my sister-in-law pregnant, delayed the marriage, and didn't want to pay the bride price. My sister-in-law thought, if I'm not getting married, then I'm not getting married. I'll just raise the child myself, and that's how things have dragged on until now. But my cousin told my sister-in-law's parents about her pregnancy. My sister-in-law's parents felt that she had brought shame upon the family by being so forward, so they married her off to my cousin. Originally, my sister-in-law and my cousin We're both assembly line workers in the same factory. After she started showing, she quit her job and went to work selling clothes at a clothing store. As a result, my cousin took her parents to the clothing store and caused a big scene, and she lost her new job. My grandmother held her hand and kept repeating, "Niece, you have to give our old Wang family a big, healthy boy." My sister-in-law felt a bit awkward and subtly withdrew her hand, sniffed a little, and held her breath. My grandmother noticed but didn't say anything. Later, she told my cousin in private, "You need to discipline your wife properly after you get married. She's starting to look down on me." An old woman. Now, she herself knows that because she's been wearing the same diaper for too long, she's developed an odor. Wherever she goes, people with good manners silently hold their breath. Those with poor manners directly cover their noses and say it stinks, but she still insists on her own way, saying those people don't understand frugality. Why is there so much cotton inside this chicken? The cook was slaughtering a chicken and noticed a lot of cotton in its stomach, voicing his confusion, but his words were drowned out in the noisy atmosphere. My grandma and my dad heard it, but neither of them said a word. I knew why. My grandma had pulled out the stuffing from those worn-out diapers and fed it to the chickens. The cook didn't recognize it. Thinking it was cotton, I quietly ran over to Aunt Zhang and warned her not to eat the chicken. Aunt Zhang connected the dots and agreed. Among those close to my family, aside from Aunt Zhang's household, all the others favored sons over daughters, so this time, those who came to the feast were all the old men and young boys, while the girls and daughters-in-law stayed home to do farm work. My grandmother was about to become the target of the whole village's criticism. After the villagers finished the first day of the feast, they all got diarrhea. The able-bodied men in the village clamored to go to my uncle's house to demand an explanation. Old One's family, come out here. Uncle saw that these people were coming with a fierce attitude and knew they were not to be trifled with. He quickly stepped forward, offering a smile and handing out cigarettes. "Ah, Brother Zhou, on such a joyous day, why are you so angry?" The leader of the Zhou family pushed aside the cigarette Uncle offered and scolded, "Bah, how dare you say that? Your banquet wasn't clean. My son is still in the hospital on N4. He's so dehydrated from diarrhea. If you don't give us an explanation for this, you can forget about holding this wedding banquet." The crowd behind the Zhou family men also started clamoring, everyone talking at once, giving my uncle a headache. My grandmother rushed out from behind the crowd, throwing a tantrum. "Zhou's kid, don't you talk nonsense. The dishes on our table all came from the fields, and the meat was bought from various households. Even if there's a problem, it's not our fault." My dad, my uncle, and my cousin chimed in as well, with neither side willing to back down. At that moment, Uncle Zhang, who was standing nearby, said, "Hey, arguing like this isn't going to solve anything. Let's ask the cook." His words were like a wake-up call, and everyone turned their gaze toward the cook in the crowd. The cook had also been suffering from diarrhea and had just emerged from the outhouse. Clutching his stomach, Uncle Zhang asked him, "Shaoli, when you were cooking yesterday, did you notice any ingredients that weren't fresh?" The cook pinched the tissue in his hand, thought for a moment, and said, "There weren't any ingredients that weren't fresh, but when I was slaughtering the chicken, there was a lot of cotton inside its belly. I'm not sure if this counts as something to be concerned about." As soon as he finished speaking, my grandmother jumped in first. "I've never heard of anyone dying from eating cotton. Anyway, we got sick from eating at your banquet, so you have to take responsibility, right?" The crowd grew restless again, with people on both sides pushing and shoving, and my grandmother swaying back and forth in the middle. Suddenly, something fell out from the hem of my grandmother's pants. Aunt Zhang, sharp-eyed and quick-witted, immediately shouted, "Hey, stop pushing." Someone's money fell on the ground. Everyone stopped shoving and looked at the ground. There was no money, just a crumpled, yellowish, rotten lump of cotton. My grandma's diaper had been worn for far too long and had already rotted away. For a moment, no one could figure out what it was. Aunt Zhang slapped her forehead. "Oh my, these are diapers. A few days ago, I saw Aunt Wang washing and hanging them out to dry, and I even advised her not to wear them. That cotton in the chicken's belly, could it be?" Everyone thought of the smell of urine on my grandmother during this period and obviously guessed it too, all of them retching. My grandma saw everyone suspecting her and flew into a rage, pointing at Aunt Zhang and cursing, "You worthless wretch, you shameless thing, what nonsense are you talking? I'll fight you to the death today." After saying that, she tried to go up and hit Aunt Zhang, but fortunately, Uncle Zhang protected her, so my grandma didn't succeed. She simply plopped down on the ground and threw a tantrum. "Oh, you heartless scoundrels, you're all jealous of me. I might as well just die." But the villagers silently watched her performance, and no one said a word. My uncle's family and my father also felt guilty at that moment. My cousin said, "That chicken was caught by my second uncle for us. If you want to find someone, you should go to my second uncle. It has nothing to do with us." My grandmother also jumped up and shouted, "That's right. This chicken belongs to the second son's family. Go find the second son. Don't bother my good grandson." My father shouted in disbelief, "Mom." He then looked at his cousin, "Nephew, your second uncle has never wronged you." My grandmother turned her head away, not looking at him. My uncle and cousin remained silent on the side, clearly acquiescing. In the end, the blame was pinned on my father. My cousin's wedding banquet also ended in a cold and cheerless atmosphere. My father almost emptied the family savings, apologizing to each household as needed and making amends where necessary. These past few days, the house has been eerily cold, and I've been trying to keep a low profile as much as possible. Perhaps my grandmother felt guilty too, as she took out her own money to buy new chicks at the market. When my father saw this, he didn't say a word. Just as usual, he told me to get up early every day to feed the chickens. Until that day, my dad, carrying a hoe, passed by the chicken coop and saw the chickens pecking at the cotton in the diaper again. "Mom, come out here." My dad threw down the hoe and shouted toward the inner room. My grandma hurriedly pulled up her pants and came out of the dry toilet. "What's wrong now? Did you feed your old diapers to the chickens again?" My grandma guiltily argued. What's the matter? We're not in a hurry to eat these chickens anyway. By the time we eat them, they'll have been digested long ago. I think the sores in your pants have grown into your brain." After saying that, he rushed into the inner room, stuffed all my grandma's treasures into a bag, and headed toward the riverbank, ignoring her attempts to stop him. My grandma chased after him, and as she set off, she grabbed the wooden stick leaning next to the dry toilet, shouting at me, "You dead girl, what are you staring at? Hurry up and go after your dad." Oh my precious baby. I pretended to follow along, and by the time my grandmother and I caught up with my dad, he had already thrown the diaper into the river. "Second son, you're trying to drive me to my death," my grandmother said, wanting to go and retrieve it. My dad stopped her, saying, "Mom, those can't be used again. Once they're used, I'll buy you new ones." My grandma shook off his hand and scolded angrily, "Pa, you useless fool. How much money do you have in your pocket? Can you even afford it? You're just jealous that your older brother has a son." I felt speechless inside. This old lady inexplicably thought diapers were some kind of rare treasure. To be fair, although my father wasn't good to me, he was quite filial to my grandmother. He would bring meals to her, always buy her favorite snacks when going to the market, and give her some money during festivals. But familiarity breeds contempt. She took for granted the kindness of the relatives who were close to her, no matter how good they were. Distant relatives, if they treat her just a little bit better, she treasures it like a precious gem. My grandma's 2 sentences were too heart-wrenching, and my dad was deeply hurt, instantly losing his energy. "Mom, is that how you see me?" My grandma didn't answer him. Instead, while he wasn't paying attention, she gave him a heavy blow. My dad, just like me in my previous life, fell into the river. "Go, get it back for me." My dad couldn't swim either, flailing and shouting as he struggled, "Save me, I can't swim." My grandma beat the water surface with a stick, yelling, "A grown man can't swim. Stop pretending. Go get the diaper." I knew my dad really couldn't swim, so I turned and ran to get help. Soon, Aunt Zhang and her husband arrived. Without a word, Uncle Zhang jumped into the river and pulled my dad out. When my dad got up, he looked like a drowned rat. The early spring wind was still a bit chilly, and he couldn't stop shivering. Watching the scene, I sneered inwardly. History always repeats itself in a strikingly similar way. Thankfully, this time the main character wasn't me. I wasn't as lucky as my dad, able to survive and get back up after I died in my previous life. Aunt Zhang and her husband also told my dad that I was pushed into the river by my grandmother. After all, there was such a large bruise from a stick on my head at the time. Seeing that she couldn't falsely accuse Aunt Zhang's family, my grandmother threw a tantrum, claiming that I had accidentally fallen into the water. The police weren't stupid either. They probably guessed what had happened, but this was considered a family matter, and whether my grandmother would be punished depended entirely on my father's attitude. My father knew about it too, but he chose to cover it up. He hastily buried me, covering up everything, without even holding a funeral. He said, "What's the point of holding a funeral for a girl?" After my dad was pulled out of the water, he shook off Uncle Zhang and gave my grandma a deep glare before walking away without looking back. My grandma followed him, muttering under her breath behind him. I was about to say goodbye to Aunt Zhang and her husband, but Aunt Zhang stopped me, and "Let me ask you, you've been out of school for over half a year now. Why haven't you gone to work?" "I actually found a job, but my dad messed it up for me. He still has my ID card locked away." Aunt Zhang sighed and said, "Silly girl, Don't you want to run away? If your dad has your ID card, you can just report it lost and get a new one. I felt a knot of frustration in my chest and let out a heavy sigh, saying, my dad has connections at the police station. If he finds out, he'll beat me to death. Aunt Zhang and Uncle Zhang exchanged a glance, both seeing helplessness in each other's eyes. Listen, dear, if your cousin offers to get you a job at his factory, you mustn't go, I asked in confusion. Why? Uncle Zhang spat out. Bah, that bastard wants to trade his sister for a better future. It turned out that when my cousin got married, Uncle Zhang was there helping out and overheard my uncle and cousin discussing something. My cousin heard that the workshop director had lost his wife and wanted to remarry, so he set his sights on me, the workshop director told him to introduce me to work in their workshop, making it easier to take action. In return, he would promote my cousin to workshop team leader. For the sake of a workshop team leader, my cousin was about to sell me out. Fortunately, Uncle Zhang gave me the heads up in advance, allowing me to mentally prepare. Seeing my disbelief, Uncle Zhang said indignantly, girl, your father is easily swayed. You need to be on guard against him. This is a matter that concerns your entire life. Will my father sacrifice me again this time? I thanked Uncle Zhang and his wife, then went home and quietly hid under the window, not planning to go inside right away. The atmosphere in the main room was very oppressive. My grandmother spoke first. Second son, don't blame your mother. I was just a bit anxious at the time and didn't mean to harm you. My father stood to the side smoking, squinting as he watched the smoke disperse, lost in thought. My grandmother continued, I know you're upset about those dozens of chickens. Your nephew will compensate you. My father stamped out the cigarette but looked up at her and motioned for her to continue. Your nephew's workshop supervisor has taken a liking to your daughter. In a few days, have your daughter tidy up and go work in the workshop. Won't you be rich and prosperous from then on? Without a second thought, my father refused. That workshop director is even older than I am. I only have this one daughter, and she's a college student. You have to pay 20,000, otherwise, there's nothing to discuss. My grandma burst out laughing and said, he's a workshop director, what does he care about your little money? Fine, I'll have your nephew go talk to him. Hearing their conversation, I felt as if I had fallen into an icy abyss. After grandma walked away, I went up to my dad, who now looked very happy. Don't sell me, I'll give you money. My dad was clearly stunned. What did you say? I heard what grandma said to you. All right, you little brat, you dare eavesdrop on our conversation. After saying that, he raised his hand to hit me. I really have money, I'll give it all to you. Don't hit me. My dad's raised hand paused, and he asked suspiciously, really? I took out the slightly outdated smartphone from my pocket and said, my money is in the phone. Look, I touched the screen and opened the back end of a certain app. The phone was a bit laggy. The little circle spun for a while before the screen finally loaded. In the My Accounts section, there was a string of numbers. My dad opened his eyes wide, counting the zeros, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 30,000 yuan. Where did you get this money? I earned it from writing novels, I said with my head lowered, a hint of pleading in my voice. I'll give it all to you, just don't sell me. I wasn't lying to him. Ever since he ruined my job, I had been thinking of other ways out. It was still the last semester of university, and my ID card was still in my hand. I heard my roommate talking about novels, so I learned about related things and started writing. I've been writing for almost a year now, without a computer, just typing bit by bit on my phone. I seize every opportunity to type, because I know this might be the only way for me to gain freedom. Fortunately, heaven has been kind to me, and I have managed to save a little money. I gradually tempted him. I've only been writing for 2 months now, and I can already earn 30,000 yuan. I'll make even more in the future. I'll give all the money to you, so you can marry another wife and have a son. With a son, you'll never have to put up with your uncle's family's attitude again. My dad was clearly swayed by my words, unable to suppress the smile at the corner of his mouth. Really? How will you give me the money? The money is settled monthly. I don't have a bank card, so it hasn't been settled yet. My ID card is with you. I didn't dare to bring it up, afraid you'd hit me, I said, pretending to be aggrieved. My dear Zhaodi, why didn't you tell me earlier? How could I ever hit you for something like this? My dad rubbed his hands together and continued, at the end of this month, you and I will go to town together. We'll open a bank account and deposit the money. Dad won't sell you. Just focus on your writing this month. Oh, my dear Zhaodi, being a college student really makes a difference. Dad's future depends on you. I lowered my head and replied, but inwardly I breathed a long sigh of relief, glad that I had managed to bluff him. He didn't know that I had a bank card. Otherwise, how could I have linked it to the novel platform? The university admission letter came with a complimentary China construction bank card. Most of my savings from writing novels were in that card. Only a small amount was stored on the platform right now. I am especially grateful to my alma mater in my heart. Thankfully, there is that card my alma mater gave me. I won't leave a single cent of my money to my dad. I want to seize the freedom I long for by leveraging his greed. Within a few days, my cousin indeed came to talk to my dad about me going to work at the factory. My father sternly said to him, "Xiaodi is my only daughter. I would rather raise her for a lifetime without any return than sell her." My cousin was utterly shocked, thinking my father must have been possessed by evil spirits. He wanted to reach out and feel my father's forehead to see if he had a fever. My father rudely pushed him away and chased him out with a broom. This was the most impolite my father had ever been to my cousin in decades. Every other time, wasn't he just groveling and trying to please him? When my cousin left, he cursed, "Pa, you old thing, don't come begging me when you're old." Before the end of the month, my sister-in-law gave birth, as my grandmother had hoped. It was a son. She was so overjoyed at home that she kept spinning around in delight. Great, great, my eldest son's family is blessed with boys, and I'm going to have a great-grandson. My grandma was overjoyed and started packing her things, eager to go to my uncle's house to see her great-grandson. My dad watched her bustling around and couldn't help but make a sarcastic remark, "You're putting in so much effort, but in the end, you might not even be allowed through the door. The new daughter-in-law might complain that you smell like urine." Ever since my dad found out I'm making money, he's been speaking less and less politely to my grandma. "Pa, she wouldn't dare, or my grandson will beat her to death." After saying that, she ducked back into the dry toilet. She's been going to the toilet more and more frequently lately. My dad curled his lip and didn't say anything more. My grandmother went to my cousin's place, but she came back after just a few days. She was carrying a larger bag than when she left, but she didn't seem very happy. "Why didn't you stay longer? I already told you, they find your urine smell unpleasant." My father is getting more and more fluent at mocking my grandmother. "Nonsense. Look, my grandson gave it to me." My grandma waved the package in her hand, stubbornly insisting. My dad didn't say anything more, and my grandma, feeling awkward, hunched her back and went back to her room, looking quite unwell. "I suspect she might be sick, but I won't bring it up myself. Let her fend for herself." A few more days passed, and my cousin and uncle arrived, looking very grim. "Mom, don't hide in the room. Come out," my uncle shouted. My grandma heard the voice and dawdled for quite a while before finally opening the door. She hunched over, her face pale. My uncle and cousin were furious, and my dad was watching the commotion, none of them noticing her unusual state, or perhaps, they simply didn't care at all. "Cousin, I'm asking you, what did you give my son?" my cousin demanded. My cousin leaned weakly against the doorframe, stammering, "I didn't give him anything." "You're still pretending. You used your old diapers on my son. Now he has a urinary tract infection." My cousin had lost his patience and roared, "Ah, how could that be? I washed them very clean. It has nothing to do with me, right? Maybe your wife didn't take good care of him." Even at this point, my grandmother was still stubbornly refusing to see the truth, and her first reaction was to shift the blame. "You're still pretending. You're still pretending. I shouldn't have bought you diapers in the first place." My cousin was completely enraged and rushed into her room to gather her treasures, intending to throw them away. My grandmother hurriedly tried to stop him, and in the struggle, the package she had brought back the day before was torn open. Inside were all children's diapers, stained with yellow urine and feces. It seemed that my grandmother had been feeling unwell these past few days and hadn't had a chance to wash them yet. Uncle said fiercely, "You're disgusting. Go wash off the stench of urine on you." My grandmother was deeply hurt by the words of her two most beloved people. Leaning against the doorframe, she said with tears in her eyes, "Eldest son, how could you say that to me? Who am I doing all this for?" After saying this, she fainted from exhaustion, and a mixture of red and yellow liquid seeped from her crotch. My uncle and my father, in mutual disdain and evasion, sent my grandmother to the hospital. The doctor diagnosed her with a urinary tract infection and urethral stones. The two sons kept dodging, neither wanting to pay for my grandmother's treatment. My uncle said, "She made my grandson sick. I didn't even ask her for money, and that's already being generous." After saying that, he patted his butt and walked away. My dad had a bit more conscience than my uncle. He had the doctor prescribe some painkillers and anti-inflammatory medicine for my grandma, then carried her back. During this period, my grandma kept running to the bathroom and moaning. But my dad turned a deaf ear. Once, my grandma grabbed me and said, "Niece, go call your uncle for me, tell him I have money and ask him to take me to see a doctor." My uncle came and tipped my grandmother's money but didn't take her to see a doctor. My grandmother has aged a lot and can no longer scold people. My dad told me not to worry about her, as the end of the month is approaching, and I should focus on writing my novel. Yes, the end of the month is almost here, and my freedom is coming. This is a single day market, the last one at the end of the month. On the 29th, I tricked my dad, saying I could withdraw the manuscript fee on the 30th. My dad took me to the bank to get a bank card. He urged me to bind it quickly so he could take back the bank card and ID. I said, Dad, when binding the bank card, it requires facial recognition and scanning the ID. It's too crowded and noisy here, not safe. Let's go back and handle it. My dad kept agreeing, saying I was being thorough. With the bank card and ID in my pocket, I sneered inwardly. I had even more thorough plans. Just wait and see. After leaving the bank, my dad, for the first time ever, wanted to take me to the market to buy some meat. The market is crowded with people, and there's a restroom nearby, and my dad is haggling with the butcher. I clutch my lower abdomen, my face twisted in pain, and say, Dad, I need to use the restroom. My dad, remembering how my grandmother was, quickly says, could that old woman have passed the illness to you too? Go quickly. With his permission, my heart raced wildly, and all the blood in my body seemed to gather in my feet, screaming, run, run. I tried hard to calm my emotions. Stay calm, stay calm. This is the final step, going against the crowd and leaving his line of sight. I started running wildly. I ran all the way to a van parked ahead. This was the van I had booked in advance, and the driver would take me directly to the county town. There are buses from the county town to the provincial capital, and once I reach the provincial capital, I can go anywhere. Driver, let's go. I identified the license plate, got on the bus, and closed the door, all in one smooth motion, my heart still pounding wildly. All right. The driver was in high spirits and stepped on the gas without any hesitation. The moment the car started, the spring breeze brushed against my face, and from then on, the world was wide open. After arriving in the provincial capital, I got a new phone and a new SIM card. Everything from the past, like the old phone, was thrown by me into the trash can. I then moved around and ended up in the south, in a very beautiful, misty and rainy town. At first, I rented a place to live, and later, more and more people started reading the novels I wrote. I saved up some money and bought a house and a car. I actively exercised, learning boxing and self-defense techniques. I thought to myself, if I were to encounter my father now, I would definitely have the ability to protect myself. Over the years, I have traveled to many places, writing as I journeyed, constantly enriching myself. I am immensely grateful that fate has given me this chance to start over. One day, on a pleasant evening, the sky was painted with the glow of sunset. In a tourist town, I saw a familiar face, my former sister-in-law. That day, I was thinking of buying some local ethnic clothing, but unfortunately, I arrived too late. I saw the shopkeeper holding a child with their left hand and pulling down the rolling shutter with their right, clearly about to close up. Just as I was about to leave, the person turned around, and I tentatively asked, Xiaowei. That person saw me too and exclaimed, Zhodi. I smiled and said, my name is Juju now, let's go. I'll treat you to a meal. We went to a very elegant Chinese restaurant for dinner. After sitting down, Xiaowei said to the child, call her, oh no, call her auntie. The child sweetly called me auntie, exceptionally polite and adorable, not at all like his father. I smiled and picked up a piece of spare ribs for the child, then said to Xiaowei, you and my brother got divorced. Xiaowei was very surprised. How did you know? It was easy to guess. You look completely different now, both in temperament and appearance. I don't believe you could have this kind of state while being with my brother. Xiaowei touched her face and said with a smile, yes, not long after you left, I divorced him. Did you know? It was your escape that gave me strength, although the process of divorcing him was difficult. I am now incredibly grateful for the decision I made back then. Xiaowei raised her wine glass to me, the orange juice inside swaying back and forth a few times. I felt she now looked as noble as a queen, so I also raised my glass and toasted her in return. I had a long conversation with Xiaowei. After I ran away, my father flew into a rage. He couldn't reach me by phone and wanted to call the police to arrest me, but the police ignored him. When he returned home, he had a fierce argument with my grandmother, who thought he was being unreasonable. In reality, my father was just taking out his anger on her because he had lost his money, and so, after months of mutual insults and resentment, my grandmother, tormented by both illness and psychological distress, passed away. My eldest uncle and my father did not hold a funeral for her. They buried her hastily. My eldest uncle said, no matter what, our mother is just a woman. Let's bury her together with our father. My father silently agreed. After my grandmother passed away, his relationship with my uncle's family completely soured. My father became a loner, with no income aside from the little bit of crops he grew. He grew depressed, started drinking heavily, and whenever he got drunk, he would curse at people. There wasn't a single person in the village he hadn't cursed, and one day, after getting drunk and stumbling, he fell into the river. This time, no one came to save him. It happened to be during a flood, and his body was washed away to who knows where. Back then, my cousin failed to fulfill the promise he made to the workshop director, and the director made things difficult for him. Soon after, he was fired from the workshop. After Xiaowei divorced my cousin, no one in the surrounding villages was willing to marry him again because of all the troubles my family had caused. My cousin became like a second father to me. Xiaowei used to work in a clothing store. After her divorce, she moved around a bit before finally opening an ethnic clothing shop here. Business is going well, and her son is very well behaved and adorable. Xiaowei said she has found love again. Her new partner is gentle and gentlemanly. I'm really happy for her. The daughter of Aunt Zhang and her husband is very capable and has brought the elderly couple to live in the city. As for me, after bidding farewell to Xiaowei, I continued on my journey. I want to recreate the world I have seen in my book. In this lifetime, I have finally embraced freedom. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my previous life, I was sponsored by a wealthy man and wore a bracelet. His daughter, however, used this bracelet to drain my fortune. I uncovered the truth, but the entire family pushed me down the stairs, and I died on the spot, reborn into this life. I returned to the day I put on the bracelet. The smell of disinfectant stings the nose. The activity room in the orphanage has peeling white walls. I stood in line, my nails digging into my palms. In front of me were Lincoln, the wealthy man in a suit, and his bejeweled wife behind them. The camera was pointed at us. Today is a good day, Mrs. Lincoln said with a smile, her voice unnaturally sweet. We will sponsor 10 children, from elementary school through college. The camera panned across the faces of us orphans. My name is Susan. In the previous life, it was today, I and 9 other girls were chosen. Because we were the most presentable. Mrs. Lincoln gave each of us a silver bracelet, cold to the touch, with an ugly flower engraved on it. This is a token, she said. When you see it, it's like seeing us. At that time, all I felt was gratitude. I thought the good days were coming. So foolish it was ridiculous. Next, it's my turn. Mrs. Lincoln picked up the bracelet and tried to slip it onto my wrist. I took a sudden step back. Everyone froze in shock. The camera also paused, focusing on me. Lincoln, the wealthy man, frowned. Child, what's wrong? I lowered my head, my voice trembling as if I were afraid. My mom said I shouldn't just wear things given by others. This was something I made up. I don't even have a mom, but the teachers at the orphanage taught us that showing weakness always wins sympathy. Mrs. Lincoln's smile stiffened for a moment, then quickly softened. Auntie isn't a bad person. This is a good thing. But I lifted my head, forcing a few tears into my eyes. I'm afraid I'll lose it. It's too valuable. Some children around snickered. They think I'm foolish for not enjoying the good life. Lincoln the tycoon grew impatient and waved his hand. Forget it. Next, I breathed a sigh of relief, my back drenched in sweat. The bracelet wasn't put on in this life. The first step has been taken. The event ended, and the selected girls gathered around Mrs. Lincoln, chattering excitedly. The silver bracelets on their wrists glinted coldly under the lights. I hid in the corner, watching them. In the previous life, it was them, like me, thinking we had grasped a lifeline. What happened later, our grades plummeted dramatically. I'm clearly working harder, but the textbook seems like a foreign language. My health is also deteriorating, with constant minor illnesses and a sallow complexion. As for my appearance, it's nothing to speak of. I'm growing more ordinary, even a bit ugly. The children at the orphanage who weren't chosen have started to mock us. Are you dumbstruck by the money? Serves you right for trying to climb the social ladder. It's even harsher online. Truly an orphan, no upbringing, corrupted as soon as they got the money. You're getting uglier, your heart has turned bad, and you're definitely ungrateful. I was cyberbullied the most because I used to be the most outstanding one. Later, I dropped out of school and became a cleaner. It was when I worked as a cleaner at Lincoln's house that I learned the truth. That bracelet is not a token at all. It's a medium for transferring fortune. Our intelligence, beauty, and health were all absorbed by that wretched bracelet and transferred to the sickly, foolish, and plain-looking daughter of the wealthy Lincoln family, Julia Lincoln. Julia Lincoln grew healthier, excelled academically, and became a socialite, and we became her nourishment. I wanted to expose them, but the Lincoln tycoon pushed me down the stairs before death. The sound of bones breaking was clearer than his cold laugh. An orphan, who would believe you, not willing to accept it, too unwilling to accept it. I stared intently at those girls wearing bracelets. Their faces were filled with innocent longing, exactly the same as me in my previous life. Susan, are you stupid? A short-haired girl ran over. It was May, who hadn't been chosen. That's Lincoln Rich. So many people wanted to be chosen, and you actually dodged it. I tugged at the corner of my mouth but said nothing. May pouted and ran off to look at the chosen girls, her eyes filled with envy. I Looked at her, in my past life, me, out of jealousy, always bullied us lucky ones, yet she lived a good life, healthy, graduated high school without a hitch, and married an ordinary man. They are much better than us. The activity room gradually emptied out. I saw Mrs. Lincoln pull a staff member aside and slip them a red envelope. Keep an extra eye on that child named Susan, she said in a hushed voice. Don't let her cause any trouble. The staff member nodded and bowed. Don't worry, Mrs. Lincoln, I understand. I turned around and walked away quickly. They noticed me, because I wasn't wearing a bracelet. This is just the beginning, Lincoln family. Your good days are coming to an end. The next day, the orphanage served porridge with pickles for breakfast. The selected girls had an extra egg in their bowls. It was specially arranged by Lincoln's wealthy man, the teacher said with a smile. They looked at each other and proudly peeled the eggs. I silently drank my porridge. It was the same. In my previous life, from that day on, our meals were better than others. Looking back now, it wasn't preferential treatment, it was to fatten us up so they could suck us dry more thoroughly. I saw the girl named Tina, eating eggs while stroking her bracelet, smiling with satisfaction. In her previous life, she was the first to collapse. She was diagnosed with kidney disease in her second year of high school and had to drop out. I lowered my head and finished the porridge completely, to seek revenge. One must first survive, and live well. At that, there is a math class in the morning. I sit in the last row. The teacher is writing equations on the blackboard. In my previous life, not long after receiving financial aid, I couldn't understand it anymore. Simple questions, and it takes me a long time to react. But now, those numbers and symbols are crystal clear. I pick up my pen and start solving the problems quickly. My desk mate, a little chubby kid, sees me writing fast and leans over to look. Susan. You're so good at this, I smiled and said, just scribbled something. He let out an O and continued staring blankly at the problem. The bell rang for the end of class, and the teacher collected the assignments. When he saw my notebook, he paused and asked, Susan, did you do all of this yourself? Not bad, he nodded. Keep it up. I noticed that Tina and the others had mostly blank pages in their homework notebooks. They frowned. Looking troubled, it was only the first day that bracelet, it worked so quickly a chill ran through my heart. At noon, May came to see me again. Hey, Susan, Mrs. Lincoln sent someone to deliver something. She pointed to several large boxes at the entrance of the activity room. For those 10 girls, new clothes and new backpacks. May pouted, so biased. I walked over. A few of the selected girls had already gathered around the box, excitedly rummaging through it. The person sent by Mrs. Lincoln was a man in a black suit, holding a camera and taking pictures. Come on, smile, he said. Let Mrs. Lincoln see how happy you are. The girls immediately broke into bright smiles. Only Tina, while laughing, suddenly clutched her stomach, her face turning pale. What's wrong? The girl next to her asked. It's nothing. Tina shook her head. Just a bit of pain. The man frowned slightly, paid no attention, and continued taking photos. I looked at the silver bracelet on Tina's wrist. Under the sunlight, the pattern seemed to come alive. Disgusting, I turned around and went back to the dormitory. The dormitory was an 8-person room with bunk beds. My bed is in the corner. As soon as I sat down, I noticed something under the pillow. It was a silver bracelet, exactly the same as the one Mrs. Lincoln gave. I abruptly looked up. No one is in the dorm. Who put it there? Was it that staff member, or a trick by Lincoln's family? I picked up the bracelet, and it was icy cold to the touch, colder than the one I wore in my previous life. I walked to the window and threw it with force. The bracelet traced an arc through the air and landed in the garbage dump behind the orphanage. Only after doing all this did I feel a little better inside. Trying to trick me? No way. In the afternoon, Tina didn't come to class. I heard she had a bad stomachache and went to the infirmary. The teacher said it might be from eating something bad. No one doubts anything else. I sit in the classroom, listening to the teacher's lecture. Sunlight streams through the window, warm and cozy. That's great. I can still listen to the lecture. And I can still think. Unlike in my previous life, I had already started to stare blankly at my books by then. Before school ended, the homeroom teacher suddenly called me to the office. It was that staff member who had accepted Mrs. Lincoln's red envelope. Teacher Wendy, she pulled a long face. Susan, why did you refuse Mrs. Lincoln's sponsorship this morning? I'm afraid I'll lose the bracelet. I repeated what I had said in the morning. That's an excuse. Teacher Wendy slammed the table. Mrs. Lincoln is trying to help you out of kindness. How can you be so unreasonable? I don't care, she interrupted. Mrs. Lincoln will come again tomorrow. You must accept the support and wear the bracelet. I clenched my fist. Sure enough, she came. I won't wear it. I lowered my head, my voice soft but firm. What did you say? Teacher Wendy raised her voice. Susan, don't be ungrateful. This is for your own good. It's not for my good. I lifted my head and looked at her. Teacher Wendy. Why are you forcing me like this? She paused for a moment, her eyes flickering. I'm doing this for your own good. Did she? I stared at her, her face slightly flushed, unsure if it was from anger or something else. Anyway, you must wear it tomorrow. She threw out these words, turned around, and left. I walked out of the office. The setting sun stretched the shadows along Lincoln's house. Teacher Wendy, how many more people are in on it? No matter how many, I will never wear that bracelet again. Absolutely not. The next day, Mrs. Lincoln really came, and she brought a camera. She called me directly to the activity room. Susan, were you scared yesterday? She said with a kind smile. Auntie doesn't blame you. She held the silver bracelet in her hand. Come, put it on. The camera was pointed at me. There were several teachers around, including Teacher Wendy, all staring at me. I'm not wearing it. My voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet activity room, it was very clear. Mrs. Lincoln's smile froze. Teacher Wendy immediately stepped forward. Susan, how are you speaking to Mrs. Lincoln? Apologize now. I won't wear it, I repeated, looking at Mrs. Lincoln. I don't like this bracelet. What does a child know about likes and dislikes? Mrs. Lincoln's tone grew a bit stern. This is my heartfelt gift. I appreciate the sentiment, I said, but I can't accept the bracelet. You, Mrs. Lincoln laughed in exasperation. Do you know how many people want this opportunity? Then let them have it. After saying that, I turned and walked away. Behind me came the sound of Teacher Wendy's scream and Mrs. Lincoln's suppressed anger. The camera is still on me, I know. There might be news about me online tomorrow. An ungrateful orphan, rejecting a kind person's support, whatever, compared to the outcome of my previous life. This is nothing. Back in the classroom, my classmates were giving me strange looks. May ran over and whispered, Susan, you're amazing. You even dared to talk back to Mrs. Lincoln. It's nothing, but May scratched her head. Aren't you afraid they might retaliate? Retaliate? I smiled. They have already started. In the afternoon, I was called to the office by Teacher Wendy and made to stand for the entire afternoon. The reason was disrespecting teachers and talking back to a kind-hearted person. Standing is standing. I can take this time to think about things. Tina still hasn't come. I heard she was transferred to a major hospital for acute nephritis. That was quick. In her previous life, she also had kidney disease, but not this early. Could it be that because I wasn't chosen, they accelerated it? I look out the window. The daughter of the Lincoln family, Julia Lincoln, is she getting healthier at this time after school? Teacher Wendy stopped me. Susan, you're fired. I froze for a moment. You've been disobedient and have damaged the orphanage's reputation, she said, pulling out a piece of paper. This is signed by the director. I look at that piece of paper. As expected, it's here. They want to force me to leaving the orphanage. Where can an 11-year-old girl go? When the time comes, they'll show up with fake sympathy, and I'll have no choice but to let them manipulate me. What a clever scheme. I'm not leaving, I said. You have no say in the matter. Teacher Wendy shoved the paper at me. Pack your things and leave tomorrow. I held onto that piece of paper and walked out of the office. It was getting dark. In the orphanage, smoke curled up from the chimney. What should I do? Forcing them to stay was definitely not an option. Teacher Wendy and the dean have both been bribed. Leave? Where to? I walked to the garbage dump behind the orphanage. The bracelet I threw away yesterday is still there, buried under a pile of rotten vegetable leaves. I gave it a kick, sending it even farther away. Suddenly, someone spoke from behind. Are you really not going to take that opportunity? It's May. She had followed me at some point without me noticing. That's not an opportunity, I said, but May hesitated. Can you survive if you leave this place? I didn't speak. I know a place, May suddenly said. My hometown. My grandma is still there. She told me that if I ever didn't want to stay here anymore, I could go to her. You'll help me. We did live in the same dorm, after all. May scratched her head. And I don't think you're a bad person. I looked at her. In the previous life, although May was talkative and liked to bully others, she wasn't a bad person at heart. Thank you. No need to thank me, she said. I'll help you pack your things. We'll leave tonight while the guard is dozing off. That night, the moon was dark and the wind howled. May helped me carry a small bundle containing a few of my old clothes and the little pocket money I had saved up. We slipped past the guard and sneaked out of the orphanage. The outside world is bustling with traffic. It's completely different from the quiet of the orphanage. Go this way, May said, to the bus station, and take the midnight bus. We walked along the roadside. The streetlights stretched our shadows very long. When we get to my hometown, just say you're my distant cousin, May instructed. My grandma is very kind. By the way, May suddenly remembered something. What's the deal with that bracelet? You seem really afraid of it. I stopped walking and looked at her. Should I tell her? Would an 11-year-old believe it? That bracelet is harmful, I said. Wearing it will make you sick, stupid, and ugly. May widened her eyes. Really? Look, Tina, I said. She wore it yesterday, and today she's in the hospital. May swallowed and shivered. That's so scary. So, I can't wear it. Yeah, you can't wear it. May nodded vigorously. Good thing you didn't. We continue to move forward. The lights at the bus station are very bright. I bought a ticket for the 1 a.m. bus. There are only a few people in the waiting room. We found a corner and sat down. May leaned on my shoulder and quickly fell asleep. But I couldn't sleep. I stared at the darkness outside the window. Lincoln's house. You think it's over just by driving me away? Wait for it. I'll be back, definitely. The car rattled along all night. In the morning, we arrived at May's hometown. It was a small village, and the air was filled with the scent of soil. May's grandmother is a thin, elderly woman with a slightly hunched back, but her eyes are very bright. Is this your cousin? The old lady asked, holding my hand, which felt very warm. Yes. Grandma, her name is Susan. Good, good. The old lady smiled. Since you're here, you're part of the family. Make yourself at home. The old lady's house was made of adobe, very small but very clean. Just like that, I settled down in the village. I followed the old lady to work in the fields and went to school with May. She told the teacher I was a transfer student, temporarily studying there. The school here was very run down, even worse than the orphanage, but I didn't care. Being able to read is good enough. My grades are very good, and the teacher likes me a lot. May's grades are average, but she works very hard. Life is very peaceful, but I haven't forgotten the Lincoln family. Every once in a while, I would have May go to the internet cafe in town to check for news about the Lincoln family. The Lincoln tycoon's business was getting better and better, and he became a well-known philanthropist. Mrs. Lincoln often participated in various public welfare activities and had a very good image. Their daughter, Julia Lincoln, is also gradually appearing in the public eye. In the news, Julia Lincoln did indeed look quite ordinary as a child and was often sickly, but now, she is becoming more and more beautiful, like a little star. Moreover, she excels academically and has won many awards. The report described her as a prodigy girl and God's favorite. The comments below are all praises. The Lincoln family must have accumulated good karma to have such a wonderful daughter. Julia is both beautiful and smart, so enviable. I look at the photo of Julia Lincoln on the screen, and it seems like there's something on her wrist. Upon closer inspection, it's a silver bracelet, very similar to the one from back then, only it's brighter and more delicate. And what about the chosen girls? There is no news about them in the press. I asked a somewhat familiar child from the former orphanage to inquire. He said that those 10 girls are not doing well. Their grades are a mess. They often get sick, and they look increasingly ordinary. People at the orphanage say it's their own fault for not behaving well. 2 of them have already been taken in by relatives, and the rest are not doing well either. They were severely cyberbullied. Are they still wearing the bracelets on their wrists? I asked. Wear it, the child said. Mrs. Lincoln says it's a symbol of status and must be worn. I closed the chat window. My heart felt as if it were wrapped in ice. The goodness of Julia Lincoln was bought with their lives, and the Lincoln family still wears the halo of philanthropists. It's truly nauseating. Time passed quickly. I stayed in the village for 5 years. I am 15 years old. Over these 5 years, I've grown taller and more mature. Without wearing that broken bracelet, my appearance hasn't changed for the worse. In fact, I look even more delicate than I did as a child. My health is excellent, and doing farm work has made me quite strong. My academic performance has always been the top in my grade. May has also grown taller and become a carefree girl. The old lady is still in good health, but she has aged even more. Over the past 5 years, I haven't actively looked for news about the Lincoln family, but occasionally, I still see them on TV. Julia Lincoln became a celebrity, appearing on various shows and gaining many fans. She was admitted to the best high school in the city, and Lincoln, the tycoon, became the wealthiest person. Everything was going smoothly. It seems as if all the good luck that was taken away has been concentrated in their family, but I know it's time to move. I can't keep hiding in the village. I need to get back to the city by passing the exams, get into the best high school, stay closer to them. The high school entrance exam results are out. I ranked first in the entire county, good enough to get into the best high school in the city. No, one high school. May also got into the county high school. The old lady was very happy and killed a chicken for us to eat. Susan, you've made something of yourself, the old lady said, putting a chicken drumstick on my plate. When you get to the city, study hard and stay out of trouble. I know, Grandma. Before leaving, I left a letter for the old lady, along with all the money I had saved over the years. It wasn't much, just what I'd earned from odd jobs and scholarships. In the letter, I told her the truth, not the whole story, just that the Lincoln family had wronged me, and I was going to the city to seek justice. I Was afraid that if something happened to me, she would worry. May took me to the station. Call me when you get to the city, she said, her eyes red and teary. Be careful of the Lincoln family. I will. The car started moving, watching the village and May's figure recede further and further outside the window. I felt a pang of sadness in my heart, but more than that, I felt determined. Lincoln family, I'm back. No. One high school is truly different. Tall buildings, green trees, and a very large playground. The students are wearing neat uniforms and all look very smart. I held my admission notice and found the homeroom teacher. He is a male teacher who wears glasses, and his last name is James. Susan. He looked at me, the top student in the county. Impressive. Thank you, teacher. Your dorm is in room 302. He handed me the key. Let me know if you need any help. Okay. Dormitory 302 houses 4 people. The other 3 are all from the city, wearing name-brand clothes, and they look at me a bit strangely, probably because the clothes I wear are very old, and I carry a faded cloth bag. I didn't pay it any mind. After tidying up the bed, I went to the classroom, Class 1, Grade 10 honors class. When I entered, many people were already seated inside. Suddenly, someone pointed at me and whispered, "Is she the one who ranked first in the entire county?" It seems she came from the countryside. I found a seat by the window and sat down. Just as I put down my backpack, there was a commotion at the door. A group of people escorted a girl inside. It was Julia Lincoln. It had been 5 years since we last met, and she had become even more beautiful. Her skin was fair, her eyes were large, and she wore the school uniform of No. 1 high school, which looked as stylish as a brand-name outfit. She walked straight to the seat next to the podium and sat down. It was the best seat in the class. All eyes were on her. She seemed used to it, slightly raising her chin. I looked at her. On her wrist, she wore that silver bracelet. In the sunlight, it glinted with an eerie light. Her gaze swept across the classroom, and when she saw me, she paused for a moment. Perhaps she thought I looked a bit familiar. Impossible. In my previous life, after I dropped out of school, we were from 2 different worlds. In this life, she wouldn't even know me. Sure enough, she quickly looked away and started chatting and laughing with the girl next to her. The class bell rang. The first class was self-introductions. When it was my turn, I said, "Hello everyone, my name is Susan." There was little reaction from the audience. When it was Julia Lincoln's turn, she stood up, smiled slightly, and said, "My name is Julia Lincoln." Applause and whistles immediately erupted from below. She smiled, bowed, and as she sat down, she deliberately glanced at me with a hint of disdain. I ignored her. The real show has just begun. Just a few days into the school year, I became the odd one out in the class, because I was too uncool, and also because my grades were too good. In the first monthly exam, I ranked first in the class. Julia Lincoln came in second, only missed by 3 points. Her face looked very unpleasant. From then on, the way she looked at me was filled with hostility. Not only her, but some girls in the class who tried to curry favor with her also started targeting me, deliberately knocking my book off and talking behind my back, saying I only got first place by studying too hard, saying I'm jealous of Julia Lincoln. I've endured it all. Now is not the time. I need to gather evidence about that bracelet. I started paying attention to Julia Lincoln. She wears that silver bracelet every day and never takes it off, even when sleeping. Moreover, I've noticed a pattern. A few days before every exam, she doesn't seem to be in good spirits, and her complexion looks a bit pale, but during the exam, she becomes very energetic again. As for me, through inquiries with that child from the orphanage, I learned that the girls still at the orphanage would fall seriously ill every time Julia Lincoln had an important exam or competition. My heart sank. As expected, when Julia Lincoln needed nourishment, they would be drained even more that day. In front of the school bulletin board, I saw the news that Julia Lincoln had won first prize in the city's essay competition. In the photo, she was beaming with joy. I remembered a few days ago, the children at the orphanage told me that Tina was hospitalized again, this time with uremia. She needs a kidney transplant, but as an orphan, where would she get the money? The funds provided by the Lincoln family are only enough to cover her basic treatment. I clenched my fists tightly. I can't wait any longer. I started to think of a way. How can I get the evidence? Should I just go ask those girls? They might not believe me. Moreover, they are definitely being watched by the Lincoln family right now. Go to the Lincoln family. Even more impossible. Their security is very tight. I thought of that silver bracelet. That is the key. If we can get Julia Lincoln's bracelet, or the bracelets of those girls, we might find a clue. But Julia Lincoln is keeping a close watch. Those girls were also required to wear them. What should I do? The opportunity came soon. The school organized a sports meet. Julia Lincoln signed up for the 100-meter dash. While she was running, her bracelet kept shaking. A sudden idea came to me. On the day of the race, I stood by the track, pretending to watch the excitement. The Starting gun fired, and Julia Lincoln dashed out. Just before the finish line, I accidentally stumbled forward, landing right on the track next to her. She was startled, lost her footing, and fell to the ground. The silver bracelet on her wrist flew off. It fell not far from me. There were gasps all around. I immediately got up, pretending to help her while quickly picking up the bracelet. The cool touch felt exactly the same as I remembered. The pattern on it is clearer and more airy than the one we were given before. My bracelet, Julia Lincoln screamed, clutching her scraped knee. Give it back to me. I handed the bracelet to her, deliberately brushing my fingers over it. Sorry, I didn't mean to. She snatched the bracelet and held it tightly in her hand, glaring at me. You did that on purpose. I didn't, I said with an innocent look. The teacher nearby came over and asked what was going on. Julia Lincoln said I tripped her on purpose and snatched her bracelet. I said I just accidentally fell. The teacher looked around, and no one could prove I did it on purpose. In the end, I was only asked to apologize to Julia Lincoln. I apologized, but I've already got what I wanted. When I picked up the bracelet earlier, I scraped a bit of powder from the inside with my fingernail. It's very fine, but it should be enough. I carefully collected the powder and hid it under my fingernail. Back at the dorm, I immediately found a small plastic bag and put the powder in it. I need to find someone to test it. Let's see what this thing is made of. Who should I ask? I thought of Mr. James. He is our homeroom teacher and also the chemistry teacher. Moreover, he is an upright person and usually takes good care of me. I hesitated for a moment. Should I tell him the truth? Will he believe it? Never mind. I'll give it a try. After school, I went to the office. Teacher James was grading homework. Teacher James, may I ask you something? Go ahead. I took out that small plastic bag. Teacher, could you help me take a look? What is this? It's a little bit of powder. Teacher James paused for a moment. Where did this come from? It's scraped off a friend's bracelet, I said. She always wears it, and she hasn't been feeling well lately. I'm a bit worried. Teacher James took the plastic bag and held it up to the light. This looks like silver, but I'm not sure. I'll take it to the lab for testing tomorrow. Thank you, teacher. You're welcome. He smiled. But why not take it to a jewelry store for verification? I'm afraid she'll be upset if she finds out. All right, I'll let you know when there's a result. Yeah. I walked out of the office, feeling a bit more at ease. I hope there will be some findings. The next day, Teacher James called me to the lab. He looked very serious. Susan, be honest with me. Where did this thing really come from? This isn't ordinary silver. He interrupted me, pointing at the test report. It contains a large amount of lead and some very strange components, like some kind of mineral powder. I've never seen anything like it. Mineral powder, yes. Teacher James looked at me, and this ingredient is very unstable. It might have adverse effects on the human body. Long-term exposure could lead to a weakened immune system, and even affect the nervous system. My heart sank. Indeed, that bracelet is problematic. Teacher, could this ingredient make people sick, or even impair their intelligence? Teacher James frowned and said, theoretically, if it affects the nervous system, it might impact memory and cognitive abilities. What's wrong? I looked at him and took a deep breath. Teacher, I might need your help. I told him everything, from the funding of the orphanage, to the bracelets, to the changes in the girls, to Julia Lincoln's improvement, and then to Tina's uremia. Mr. James was dumbfounded. Is what you're saying true? Absolutely true. I took out my phone, which contained past chat records with the orphanage children, as well as comparison photos of Julia Lincoln and those girls. Teacher James looked at them one by one, his expression growing increasingly grave. This is horrifying, he murmured. The Lincoln family is known for their philanthropy. That's all a facade, I said. They're draining the life out of those girls. Teacher James fell silent for a long time. Susan, what do you want to do? I want to expose them, I said. Make them pay the price. It's difficult. Teacher James shook his head. The Lincoln family has a lot of influence. We only have these chat logs, photos, and this test report. It's not enough to prove anything. They could say it's a coincidence or that you're spreading rumors. I know it's difficult, I said, but I have to do it. Mr. James looked at me, his eyes filled with both sympathy and determination. All right, he said, I'll help you. With Mr. James's help, things went much more smoothly. He used his connections to contact a former student who worked as a journalist. That journalist Sean has a strong sense of justice, but isn't very well known. We met at a cafe. I gave him all the evidence. After reading it, journalist Chan remained silent for a long time. If this is true, it would definitely be big news, he said, but the risks are huge. The Lincolns won't let us off the hook. I'm not afraid, I said. Neither am I, said Mr. James. Reporter Chan looked at us and nodded. All right, I'm in. But we need more evidence, like the testimonies of those girls, and the transfer mechanism Of that bracelet, it sounds mysterious, but it's best to find some basis for it. How to find it? I'm thinking, said reporter Chan. This kind of thing involving metaphysics might be related to some feng shui masters. The Lincoln family might have hired someone. We began to divide the work. Reporter Chan went to investigate whether the Lincoln family had any connections with feng shui masters. Teacher James tried to find a way to contact those girls and persuade them to testify. Meanwhile, I continued to stay at the school, keeping an eye on Julia Lincoln and the bracelet. Soon, reporter Chan had some news. He found out that the Lincoln family had indeed hired a feng shui master, Leo, who was very mysterious, rarely made appearances, but visited the Lincoln family several times a year. This master Leo is said to be very impressive, said reporter Chan. Many wealthy people seek him out. He is the key, I said. Things aren't going well with teacher James. Those girls are either too sick to speak or are being closely watched by the Lincoln family, making it impossible to meet them. Finally managed to get in touch with one, but she didn't dare to say anything. She said that Mrs. Lincoln told them that if they dared to speak ill of the bracelet, she would cut off their funding and send them back to the orphanage. They were scared. What should we do? I was a bit anxious. Don't worry, said teacher James. I'll think of another way. Maybe we can start with Tina. She's the most seriously ill and might be more willing to resist. Tina is in the hospital, and her condition is very poor. Teacher James used his connections to visit her at the hospital under the guise of being a volunteer. When he returned, he looked very pale. Tina is very weak, he said, but she told me she vaguely remembers that every time she wore the bracelet, she felt something being drained from her body. She also tried to take it off, but she couldn't. Whenever she tried, she felt dizzy and nauseous. Couldn't take it off. I was taken aback, said teacher James. She said the bracelet felt like it was growing on her hand. I remember in my past life, I also tried to take it off, but I didn't succeed. At the time, I thought it was because I wasn't strong enough. Turns out, it wasn't. That bracelet, once you put it on, you can't take it off. This only proves that there's something wrong with it. Is Tina willing to testify? She is, said Mr. James, but she's too weak and might not last much longer. My heart skipped a beat. We must act quickly. That day, at school, I saw Julia Lincoln talking to a middle-aged man. The man was wearing a tang suit and gold-rimmed glasses, looking refined and polite, but his eyes were sinister. Julia Lincoln was very respectful to him. I secretly took a photo and sent it to reporter Chan. This is Master Leo. Reporter Chan replied quickly, the opportunity has come. I quietly followed him. They walked to a secluded spot at the school. Julia, how have you been feeling lately? Master Leo asked. Pretty good, Julia Lincoln said, but I found the last exam a bit challenging. Normal, Master Leo said. Those containers are getting weaker, and the nourishment they provide isn't enough. I'll go and replenish them in a while. Still need to replenish. Julia Lincoln frowned. Will they? They won't die, Master Leo sneered. As long as they're still breathing, they can be used. Once you're completely stable, they'll be of no use anymore. My heart felt as if it were being cut by a knife. Containers, nutrients, these beasts. I took out my phone and recorded their conversation. Halfway through the recording, Master Leo suddenly looked in my direction. Who's there? I was startled, turned around, and ran. Grab her, Master Leo shouted. Julia Lincoln also reacted and gave chase. I ran as fast as I could. The books in my backpack clattered loudly. I reached the teaching building, turned a corner, and hid in the women's restroom. My heart was pounding as if it would burst. After a while, footsteps and voices came from outside. Where did he go? It was Julia Lincoln's voice. Forget it, Master Leo said. Just a student. Probably didn't hear anything. Let's be more careful in the future. The sound of footsteps faded away. I leaned against the door, gasping for breath, but I laughed. I got the key evidence, recording. With this recording, along with the previous test report, chat history, and photos, it's enough. The reporter Chan was also very excited to see the recording. It's ready to go, he said. I'll organize it tonight and post it online. Wait, I said. Can we wait one more day? Why, tomorrow is the day of the Lincoln family's charity dinner, I said. All the media in the city will be there. That would be the best time to post it. Reporter Chan thought for a moment. All right, let's do it tomorrow. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was both excited and nervous. I didn't know what would happen tomorrow, but I knew that tomorrow, the sky would fall on the Lincoln family. The charity dinner was held at the city's most luxurious hotel. Elegant attire and the clinking of glasses filled the air. Lincoln, the wealthy man, and Mrs. Lincoln stood at the entrance, being interviewed by reporters. Julia Lincoln wore a beautiful gown, looking like a princess. Their family looks happy and perfect. I am sitting in the corner with teacher James and reporter Chan. Reporter Chan's computer is already prepared. It's almost time. Send it, I said. Reporter Chan took a deep breath and Press the send button. A lengthy article titled Charity or Plunder, Uncovering the Life-Extending Conspiracy of the Lincoln Family. It detailed how the Lincoln family used bracelets to steal health, intelligence, and beauty from orphans and transfer them to Julia Lincoln. Attached are the inspection report, chat records, photos, Tina's testimony, and that crucial recording after the article was published. It exploded like a bomb across the internet. At first, no one believed it. Is the editor crazy, daring to smear the Lincoln family? This is so ridiculously made up, and it's supposed to bring good luck. But soon, some people started to believe it. I know one of the girls, and she really did become very strange. Her grades plummeted, and she's always sick. I've seen Julia Lincoln when she was little, and she was really ordinary and sickly. How did she suddenly become so beautiful and smart? That recording. It sounds real. Container, nourishment. It's terrifying. Public opinion began to ferment. At the banquet, someone saw the news. Whispers started to spread. The smiles on the faces of Lincoln and Mrs. Lincoln gradually stiffened. Julia Lincoln also took out her phone, and her face turned pale upon seeing the news. "Dad, Mom, look at this," she screamed. The reporters smelled blood and swarmed forward. "Mr. Lynn, is the rumor online true? Are you really mistreating orphans? Was Julia Lincoln's success stolen?" The camera flashes kept going off. Lincoln the tycoon, his face ashen, pointed at the reporter. "Nonsense, it's all slander. Security, get them out." But it was already too late. More and more people saw the news. The scene descended into chaos. Some began to leave, cursing liar and hypocrite under their breath. At that moment, the hotel's main door was pushed open. A group of police officers walked in. "Mr. David," the name of the Lincoln tycoon, "Mrs. Lincoln, we have received a report suspecting you of intentional injury and fraud. Please come with us." The Lincoln tycoon collapsed to the ground. Mrs. Lincoln screamed, "It wasn't us, it was Master Leo. He did it all. Master Leo, he ran away long ago." Julia Lincoln watched all of this and suddenly went mad, trying to take off the bracelet on her wrist. "It won't come off, it won't come off," she cried, hitting it with her hands and biting it with her teeth. The bracelet did not budge. Instead, it tightened even more, cutting into her wrist until it bled. Ah, her screams were particularly piercing in the chaotic hall. I stood in the corner, watching coldly. This is only the beginning. In the following days, the Lincoln family became the biggest news. Their company's stock price plummeted, and partners withdrew their investments one after another. Banks demanded repayment of debts. Past scandals were also dug up. Tax evasion, unfair competition, and even a few old cases are all linked to them. Lincoln the tycoon and Mrs. Lincoln were detained in the holding cell. Julia Lincoln was admitted to a psychiatric hospital due to a mental breakdown. The bracelet on her wrist was eventually sawed off by a doctor. After being sawed off, she rapidly aged, becoming ugly and foolish, just like when she was a child, or even worse. Every day in the mental hospital, she would only repeat one phrase: "Give it back to them, give it back to them." That Master Leo was also caught. He confessed to everything. He does know some dark arts. That bracelet is a talisman for changing fortunes that he made. The Lincoln family paid him a huge sum to use the lives of orphans to extend Julia Lincoln's life. The girls who were chosen were all carefully selected vessels by him. The truth was revealed. Public opinion was in an uproar. People finally realized how unfairly those girls who were cyberbullied were treated. All sectors of society have started donating to help Tina and the other girls receive medical treatment. Tina successfully underwent a kidney transplant surgery, although she is still in the recovery period. Her condition is improving. The other girls have also removed their bracelets and are gradually recovering their health. Their grades, though not as good as before, are slowly improving. Teacher Wendy and the orphanage director were dismissed and faced legal consequences for accepting bribes. Everything is moving in a positive direction. That day, I went to the hospital to visit Tina. She has lost a lot of weight, but there's a light in her eyes. "Susan, thank you," she said. "Don't mention it," I said. "It's us who should thank ourselves for not giving up." "Amichem," she smiled. Leaving the hospital, the sunlight was very good. Teacher James and reporter Chan were waiting for me. "It's all over," said Teacher James. "Yes, it's over," I said. Reporter Chan became a well-known journalist because of reporting this news. He patted me on the shoulder. "If you need anything in the future, feel free to reach out to me." Okay, I returned to school. The way my classmates looked at me had changed. There is admiration, there is guilt. No one dares to bully me anymore. Julia Lincoln's seat is empty. I sit by the window, watching the sunlight outside. The resentment and unwillingness from my past life seem to have vanished with the downfall of the Lincoln family. I can finally live well for myself, and for the girls who once suffered. The road ahead is still long, but I am not afraid, because I know that justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent, and those who do evil will eventually pay the